Hello and welcome to the Comicsspiracy episode 506 for the week of June 29th, 2021. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Kevin.
And Charlie.
Sure. It's a quiet week. It's a quiet week, but we got a couple things to talk about, and we got a bunch of questions from our lovely people over at Patreon. Patreon.com/Comicsspiracy. We're going to get to these. Maybe some Loki episode 3 talk at the end. I don't know that there's much to say, but we can save that for after everything.
Did something happen in Loki finally?
You tell me. Did you watch episode 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing happened.
Oh, Toby, you can talk about. You want to talk about your Invincible watching as well? We can save that to spoiler talk.
Well, I didn't get very far. I'm like on episode 4.
Yeah, but you've had an interesting experience. So it's always fun when Toby explains something.
Toby explains.
Sure. Okay. I'll explain it. I don't know if people will like it if I explain it.
No.
You just want me to have as many enemies as possible. I see what's going on.
You've been sending me some fun messages, so let me talk about Invincible. But the news worth talking about this week, and that's one, is that despite the global pandemic, despite what Rob Liefeld says on Twitter, despite what Ethan Van Sciver says on YouTube, the comic industry once again has shown growth in the year 2020, despite all odds, growing to $1.28 billion estimate in sales in North America alone across comic book shops. And
well, I can tell you that 10% of that is me during the pandemic trying to omnibuses and trades and epic collections.
Oh, they addressed this here. So this is ICV2 and Comichron. Every year they do just a chart of growth of comics in the industry and just how things are going. And of course, a lot of these are estimates. A lot of this comes from Diamond, from MPT Bookscan, and now from Comic Hub as well. So they have multiple sources that they pull from to get sales estimates and rough data. Of course, the actual numbers of how much the comic book stores and comic industry makes is it's all pretty hidden. No one really talks. Obviously every store is kind of independent, so there's not really a way to judge how well stores did, but they have estimate sales for books that shipped, and Bookscan has pretty accurate numbers for data going into I believe it's 85% of the U.S. trade print book market. So that is most major retailers. These of course are copies sold and non-returnable stores. Non-returnable orders to go to comic book stores. So we're part of Bookscan, right? Because we order from Penguin Random House, which is we get a lot of our restock from them. So while we are a direct market comic book store, we use Penguin Random House to get a lot of DC, Dark Horse, IDW,
Image,
Kodansha. No, Image is exclusive to Diamond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Image is exclusive to Diamond. Marvel is Hatchet and Hachette. I believe it's Hachette. And will soon be Penguin Random House, but not yet. So it's going to change dramatically how much. Because this is the interesting thing when they look at the sales charts here. They break down by book channels and comic book stores. The problem is book channels include Penguin Random House. So when I order from Penguin Random House, I am considered a book channel. I understand they kind of want to break down where this money's going, but at the same point, bookstores sell comic books, comic book stores order from book distributors. So these numbers kind of are, the book market is growing because of distribution through book distributors. If that makes sense?
You mean graphic novels and comic books?
Graphic novels predominantly. It's not necessarily that Amazon and Barnes and Noble are selling more. It's the book distributors are distributing more. Not and they are going to comic book stores as well. So if that all makes sense, the big takeaway here, of course, the 2020 sales estimates and industry estimates is that despite 7 weeks of no comic books, despite Diamond shutting down, the comic book market was down 20%, despite 30% fewer new single issue comic books. So that is growth on top of, everything else, just because, hey, if it was like, okay, 30% fewer comics and this industry crashed and stores cut in half, then yeah, that's pretty bad. But that's just sales of comic books. That doesn't include back issues, toys, high-end merch. We're just talking comic stores. So yeah, obviously single issue comic book sales were down because we didn't have anything for 7 weeks. And then it took another 3 months for things to get normal. I don't even know that they really are normal. DC's output is down pretty dramatically, period. Marvel is still smaller than they were when things came back.
But they're still pumping out those variants.
Yeah, of course. But Marvel and DC are not putting out the numbers they were putting out in 2019. No. They just aren't. No. Comic book stores and the bookstore market for comic book sales were $1.28 billion in 2020. $645 million of that estimate went through book channels, $440 million to comic book stores and Diamond Distribution and Lunar. $160 million digital download. Now that is one of the
biggest years.
The bigger growths. Yes, it was a I think digital maybe roughly doubled, but it makes sense. Clearly, people were home. They maybe didn't want to trust even Amazon or delivery people. Things just were unavailable, manga especially. So it's obvious that digital downloads would increase dramatically. But it's not like, again, it's still not like they're outstripping physical 10-1 or anything like that. It's still
about 10%?
It's maybe like 15%.
Digital download, you mean digital sales of books, correct?
There is no public digital data available. These are kind of behind closed door estimates. These are sales of digital comic books, whether through Kindle, whether through Comixology. This does not include
Marvel Unlimited or DC.
Marvel Unlimited, and this is not
specifically what I was wondering is just if we had any numbers about. I would assume those services would have seen a huge bump as well.
And like most digital numbers, like Netflix, these are not public. They do not make these numbers public.
So we need to like buy some stock and get on the board so we can get the reports.
Roughly $35 million came from Kickstarter, Newsstand, and other crowdfunding sources. Obviously, Kickstarter, very, very profitable source for a lot of independent people to get their comics published, or to fund their comic publishing, I should say. The big takeaway here, right? Obviously, sales are growing. The book channel and the graphic novels, obviously, $835 million in graphic novel sales, $285 million in single issue comics, and again, roughly $160 million in digital comic sales. Now, just to make sure we're on the same page here with everyone, what's happened over the last 10 years is you've seen that graphic novel number just continuously slide up, right? And surpass comic books, and obviously now greatly surpass comic books. And some people will look at that and say the single issue comic book market's dead, blah, blah, blah. The thing people forget is there are roughly the same amount of single issue comics available every month, roughly. Sometimes there's there's 100 more, sometimes there's 100 less. But roughly, within the course of a year, the number is fairly consistent. Graphic novels are, in theory, always growing, never ending, never staying equivalent or smaller than other months. There is only more graphic novels every month because you have all the back catalog that is exponentially growing month after month and being added on top of it. Watchmen isn't 12 issues and over. Watchmen is a perennial seller that sells every single month for 40 years. So the graphic novel, the long tail of graphic novel sales, clearly, as we're now seeing, is going to continuously add and add and add. Stuff will fall out of print, but there's so much stuff available right now. So graphic novel sales continue. They're obviously a higher dollar amount. So the unit sales don't have to be as high to get the same dollar amount out. And so, again, there is no reason for them to ever stop publishing single issue comic books, because what do single issue comic books turn into? Graphic novels. So there will always be the single issue market roughly staying the same, churning out more and more graphic novels that will continue to make that graphic novel market bigger and bigger and bigger. So, if anyone looks at this number and you're like, oh, they're going to kill the single issue market and just do trades sell so much better. That's not what's happening here. It's the fact that you have 100 years of comic books available for graphic novel formats in various forms, and comic books are 12 months, right? It's just that it is a different market, although it's all still part of the same thing. And digital comics as well. Digital comic sales, in theory, should only ever grow, really. And the fact that they've been flat with so much more additional content out there means the sales are, not great. I would think the Comixology Unlimited and Marvel Unlimited and DC Infinite are the big money makers in digital, I would think. But yeah, $285 million in comic books in COVID, and a lot of shops closing, and things had nobody knew what was going on. I think overall we can call this a plus for the year. So, formats over time. If you go back to 2015, graphic novels were a couple hundred million above, 150 million maybe above single issue comic books. Now it's nearly 3 times. So yeah, it's great. It's great. Graphic novels and comics, they're all the same thing. Yeah, go check out the full list over at Comichron and ICV2. That's one of the comic industry websites. We'll have any. I had a list. Yeah, roughly the last 25 years, we've seen flat to growth. The only time in the last 9 years that there was a drop was 2016 to 2017, as far as estimated dollar, and the growth every other year has been from 2017 to 1920. It's pretty significant.
Wasn't there a dip in 2008?
Yeah. I mean, right. If you go back 25 years to the late 90s, when comics really bottomed out post speculative boom, post Image, during the Marvel bankruptcy and everything. I don't have charts to go that far back, but that's about the low point. 2000s, up. There are points where it's down slightly, but you're talking like
it's this little thing. Yeah. It's just little, it drops, but it comes back up. Drops, comes back up.
Yeah. The next year is higher than the year that it dropped. So it's not like it fell off a cliff and then slowly is climbing back to where it was. It's like one off year, then boom, right back to where it was. Boom, up. So, over the last 25 years, we have pretty consistent growth in the comic industry, and I don't see why this would not ever stop, but stop anytime soon because of graphic novels and digital market, because that is just always new product. So, the backlog is near infinite at this point. So there's so much stuff that's available in graphic novel forms.
Well, it's funny because people often complain that, like, well, if you don't buy it in single issue, it won't be put out in graphic novel. And I'm like, I mean, it'll get put out. Yeah, it's single issue is just one way they put it out, and then they put it out graphic novel afterwards.
Assuming it finishes the series or then yes, it will make it out in trade. But there is something to be said for comics that don't sell well enough getting canceled early, and therefore you never get a trade and that kind of stuff.
But like,
I think they know pretty quick what's going on. So,
well, it's like it's one of those things where it's like you don't get those like hardcovers, you don't get those oversized, omnibus editions or absolute editions. They release the trade, and that's pretty much it. If it goes to another print, great. If not, then that's kind of where it's at. But stuff can resurface, right?
Yeah, you get the occasional book that comes back and is a print forever. Single issues get reprinted and reprinted and reprinted. But
also, one of my favorite trends is when a creator goes top tier and all their back catalog slowly comes back into print. Like you kind of saw with Jeff Johns and Scott Snyder, and like that's one of my favorite things, is watching that creator go big and all of a sudden their back catalog is in huge demand.
Well, I know, Brock, didn't you just pick up all of Ram V's like image stuff? Brock, I think you're muted.
Yeah, what was that?
Didn't you just pick up all of Ram V's?
I got all of Ram V's back catalog because the blue and green is going back to print. They have it in this current previews. But yeah, I went and got back and got his back catalog, because that's the thing, is you get a writer that hits it decent, or he's doing really well, then people want to go back and revisit some of the stuff that he did prior that might not have had as much attention as before. So
yeah. Well, big news for comics. I always like the sales chart stuff. We're gonna on some questions. Got a bunch of questions. I've had a little backlog from. I knew we have a slow week one of these days, so we'll do these. Then we'll do we'll do some Invincible talk. Toby's been catching up, and then some Loki. It's from Gilbert. He says, "He didn't ask us for a while. Life has been very busy lately, so I decided to cut my weekly trip to the comic book store. I'm subscribing to Marvel and DC apps and will order trades for independent comics. I have a list of over 100 comics I always wanted to get." Independent stuff, not Marvel and DC, but I'm not sure where to start. Wondering if you guys have any recommendations for independent graphic novels that are not about super people or superheroes with powers. Stuff that's currently in print. Open the floodgates.
Wow, that's a big question. The tricky part is the in print question.
Yeah.
So let me just lob the first ball in here, and then anybody else. I will say Stray Bullets.
I think that big compendium's in print. I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, so Stray Bullets in one sentence is a masterful, I guess a crime comic is the closest way to describe it, but this giant, it's not called an omnibus. I can't remember what that book is called now, but
or whatever.
It's a huge paperback that collects the whole series, and it is this brilliant asterisk if you like crime comics. It's this brilliant series that takes place over several years, and you meet these characters, and then they drop out of the story, and then some of them reappear, and you meet them under different circumstances, and it's just really, really top quality craft. It is dark, and some of it's really dark, but
written and drawn by Dave Lapham.
Yep. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and what I like about Stray Bullets is, again, it's not just like one character and you're following them. It's not linear, right? I mean, it jumps around in time, jumps around in locations, jumps around characters. Fantastic comic, love, one of my favorite independent books, and that compendium thing is humongous. Totally
totally worth investing in that book, because you will get hours and hours of reading out of it.
Yeah. I have our like kind of normal list of recommendations when people are looking for new indie stuff, and stuff kind of comes and goes out of it. Especially recently, there's been some really good ones. Something is Killing the Children is our best-selling graphic novel right now, without even question. James Tynion, that book is on fire. 3 volumes out right now. I mean, does she have superpowers? I mean, it's not a superhero. It's more like Buffy. The 2 books we have on our front rack right now are that and Department of Truth, both by James Tynion. Yeah, so think Buffy, think X-Files. If you like that
Does Department of Truth have a trade yet?
Yeah. The first one's out. Yep.
So I will just say, to add on to what Ryan was just saying, that is the book that I put at the top of my reading pile every month that it comes in. That is my favorite current comic.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's like the X-Files, but in that, just easy explanation. Buffy,
Yes.
X-Files.
Yes.
If you have any interest in that sort of thing.
And in that sense, you could go straight bullets, Pulp Fiction.
Sure, Something is Killing the Children, and Department of Truth. There's obviously a lot more going on there, but there is similar themes in those books. The art in Department of Truth. I'm blanking on the guy's name. I have it on me.
Chaos.
No.
Martin Simmons.
Yeah.
Super unique style. Super unique style. It's very
chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, very Vertigo-y. It's a little Bill Sienkiewicz-ish.
Yeah. Of the Elektra period.
Yeah. Sort of in that vein. It's a very sketchy, very. I don't mean like sketched. It's very pencil, heavy pencil look. It's
very
cool
angry. Style. It's got that angry, like quick draw, like very just but it fits the tone of the book.
Yeah.
Brock, the question was, somebody's looking to get into indie comics and wanted non-superhero graphic novels.
Oh, geez.
I know.
Birthright's been amazing. Something is Killing the Children. Those ones are great.
This is a question that really needs a genre or...
Yeah.
Or literally, we can be here the rest of the podcast just suggesting books.
Just follow Ed Brubaker's criminal stuff if you like that, type of stuff. Trying to think of what I'm currently reading. There's so many books. The Many Lives of Layla Starr is really good right now.
I thought he said he was looking for graphic novels. That's why I was trying to steer away from.
I'm just saying, it's going to be a graphic novel.
Eventually,
soonish.
Yes.
Like I think issue 4 is out soon, and it's only 5 issues. So,
what's waiting for a opening in my bookshelf, and I'm praying one day. Kevin, can you explain to me why they can't collect Love and Rockets in any sort of chronological order?
What do you mean chronological? So those books that you have in your store,
that's as good as I think you're going to get right now.
Yeah.
But they publish them by story, by each of the brothers, kind of these full runs. But that's not how the books were published. They were published kind of anthology, multiple stories.
Because I think it's that some people only want the Jaime stuff and some people only want the Gilbert stuff. Yeah. But those books are in chronological order by the individual creator.
Right. I just find it weird that they would split them up like that. It's just I almost have been waiting for that quote unquote perfect edition of those books. And I'm not to really jump in, because I've read a couple couple arcs way back in the day when I was first getting into comics, and I'm I feel I'm obviously way more into the punky 80s element, and less so the home life in Mexico storylines, like Luba and whatever. It's all cool. I just clearly they kind of have different story arcs, and I'm just wondering are we ever just going to get a full?
So you just want a book that has as they were originally printed?
I just don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I don't. Just buy what they have now and cut it up and then put it back together yourself.
Put it back together.
A fun project, yeah.
Well, and the thing is once you do that, then they will release what you want.
Of course.
Well, but Ryan just teed me up for one of my all-time favorite indie comics, which is Love and Rockets.
That's why I asked you. I asked you. Yeah.
But that early punky stuff you like is the Maggie the Mechanic, the first book.
Yeah.
I think it's even number 1 on their printing order.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. Like, are they just like, this is the order? And
well, then they did a giant hardcover of the Maggie and Hopi stories by Jaime, which is not all of his work. It's only the stories that had those two characters in it, in this big hardcover that's now out of print. And that's not even chronological because they skipped any little story that didn't have one of those characters in it.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
I do feel like I'll start to finally pick those up, and then.
Well, then please start picking them up, because I also will. I only own those things in like 4 different formats, so let's keep it rolling. it's like that. Those and the Jim Starlin stuff. It's like every format that rolls, it comes into my house. So
it's fine.
I always throw Day Tripper in there, just because that's just a good one-shot one.
I do find when I'm suggesting independent stuff for people, I will also half turn to the DC section and go,
DMZ, Preacher.
Yeah. Why, Fables, Sandman, Scalped. Yeah, I mean, there's superhero-y stuff that can be in those stories, but
Vertigo just had so much good quality stuff come out of it. And, there's a lot of garbage too, but
Vertigo, I maybe I've talked about liking Vertigo once or twice in the past, but
once or twice, yeah.
It is to me the absolute perfect mix of the legacy of Marvel and DC and the kind of the creation and hope of the independents and the small press guys. It is this perfect mix of both working at the same time, and I think that's why I relate so. Relate's not maybe not the right word. Why I like just those books, especially the Animal Man, Swamp Thing, Doom Patrol, the ones that are more tied in with the DC universe, but are also at the same point completely separate, because they read like, Swamp Thing really is doesn't ever have to be a DC comic. Sandman, they don't have to have Martian Manhunter in that first book. Like, you can really strip out all those elements. Doom Patrol, Morrison's Doom Patrol is really its own thing. Again, stuff happens in there. People show up, but you really don't need to. Animal Man, same thing. Is he a superhero in the Morrison stuff? I mean, do you consider that run of Animal Man a superhero comic? I don't. He doesn't do any superheroics in there. There's elements of comic book kind of meta fiction in there, but he's not fighting Lex Luthor or anything like that. It's such a unique title. That's all I got.
Well, like Charlie said, we could be here all night.
Yeah. Or manga. I would recommend every manga ever.
Good luck finding it in print.
Well, yeah. We're going to move on. We have another one from David. He says, here we go. This is dangerous. He says, we need some balance in the podcast, and no, we're not bringing Bryce in.
Does that really balance the podcast, though? I think it just takes us like left.
And I'm editorializing here a little bit. Clearly, we have a lot of DC fans on this podcast, and we also have a lot of Marvel fans on this podcast. I think we're all fans of Marvel. However, occasionally modern stuff doesn't quite click with us as much as it does some other people. So David's question is, what are some recent DC books and directions and decisions that aren't working for you, like currently? And what are the Marvel books and directions that you do like at the moment? And I'm not picking on David here, but I feel like I definitely am not like everything DC does is great. No, they make plenty of mistakes, and Marvel does plenty of good stuff. So like I know we come off very pro one and anti the other, but I'm always happy to praise Marvel, and
we praise good stuff, and we comment on bad stuff.
So we need one pick for each: a DC you don't like and a Marvel you do.
But books, directions, decisions. It's not specifically like a comic you like or don't like.
I think DC has had a really, really hard time with the concept of trade dress.
Well, that was my post for today. Yeah.
Fucking uniform.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it is an ongoing issue.
How hard is it? Like, it's a template. You're changing the color of the font and the number of the volume. And yet somehow you fuck it up. Like, what was this week, or what was this one? There was Transmetropolitan Spines this time.
Yeah, it was Transmet. Yeah.
One of the things that amuses me the most about following a lot of these omnibus groups and that kind of stuff is most people have given up on companies doing spines in the way they want. So they just trade artwork that they go and print out, new dust jackets around their omnibuses and such.
Yep.
And oftentimes it is far superior to anything that was actually released.
It's like, there are people Etsying this stuff better. Like, there are people in their basements with better printers doing a better job than publishing companies who have been doing this for how long?
Well, I think Marvel, I've been saying this, I think all of us here agree with this forever. Marvel, especially their Epic collections, their omnibuses, are fantastic. Their reprints of old stuff are great. Now, stock can sometimes be an issue, but if you're just on board and you pre-order stuff, you're good to go. DC is getting better. DC was always the leader in graphic novels, but they've really suffered the last 10 years or so. But Marvel is absolutely killing it with that. I think pretty much everything Donny Cates does is really good. His run's fantastic. I'm a little bit behind on Venom, but I generally think craps about Venom. But his Venom stuff is pretty good. Kevin, you were like in Marvels, right? Is that?
Oh yeah. Well, that's over now. But he said recent, not current.
Yeah, just recent.
I love the Marvels anthology, and maybe Charlie can back me up on that. I'm not current on Immortal Hulk. I'm maybe 2 trades back, but I love that series. Just because it's so unlike any Hulk book I've ever read, and I just appreciate taking a big swing instead of just churning out. It'd be so easy to just do typical Hulk stories, and this is so different.
Smash.
Yeah, I think I think DC's had they've had some success with these anthologies, but I think as I feel like they are just kind of throwing a lot of stuff out right now. There's like Truth and Justice. And there was
Truth and Justice is really good, though. It's really good. Like, the individual stories are really good. Now, whether or not it shouldn't be a 6-issue mini with the variant covers. It should just be like a collection of stories in like a 100-page giant. But it's I really enjoyed the stories. They've been good.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I think some of those other anthologies are great, but I thought that one was pretty weak.
Ryan, maybe you'll agree on that. I just thought of the DC pick. I wouldn't say I dislike it, but when we came to the end of the recent Legion of Superheroes series, my reaction was just kind of,
Yeah, there wasn't a story. There wasn't an arc.
After so much buildup and so much hype about the return of the Legion, it was just kind of okay.
Part of me kind of blames COVID on that, because that was one of the books that just sort of got dropped and just didn't come back. So maybe that's a good excuse. Bendis's DC stuff, I'm like his Marvel stuff, I'm pretty mixed on. I think his Superman stuff is really good. I thought his Superman was fantastic. Action Superman. Legion, it was unique, and I wanted to see what he was going to do with it, but it just nothing happened. Like, the story never happened. And I feel like that a little bit with Young Justice. Again, I think Young Justice may also have been a bit of a COVID / reorg. I don't know. I don't think any of this becomes public till tomorrow. I'll tell you guys off air. I don't want to. It's from a book that comes out this week.
Spoilers.
Yeah, but something in crossover makes me kind of go.
Crossover the Image series?
The Image title? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm behind. I'm not current.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. I mean, obviously we're talking about Bendis, so maybe it's kind of Just
Okay.
I kind of wonder what's going on with Bendis and DC. I think he'll stick around, but I kind of wonder if
Well,
I think their like exclusive thing is pretty much done.
Here's my crazy pitch. When you bring Legion back, and I say when, not if, think younger. By that I mean the creators on the book. Think younger. Maybe even have 2 different writers rotating through and just say, you select the Legionnaires you want to focus on, and we'll do 3-issue arcs or 6-issue arcs, and then switch off. And I don't mean an older person can't write the Legion. I'm just saying, let's try, because think of the last few Legion writers. Let's try something crazy different and just hand the keys to find 2 people in their 20s on your staff of writers and artists. Say, you take it where you want to take it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like Bendis and Paul Levitt and all those guys just fine, but
yeah, I do too.
Yeah, just didn't quite come together. And just never give what's his name?
Ryan Sook
a book again. You know, he's already off Blue Beetle. Booster Gold.
Wait.
He's only doing the first 2 issues.
Did that thing come out?
No, it's soon though. It's soon. Number 1's like next week, 2 weeks. It's pretty soon. Yeah, he only did the first 2. I mean, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised? No, dude can't do a comic.
Weren't we having Charlie was in on this on some episode in the last couple months about predicting like how many issues Ryan Sook would do of, was it Blue and Gold?
Yeah,
it might have been
when
that.
I saw him as the artist on that, I was like, well, okay, sure thing.
And I think I said 6 issues just to be fun, to like have a bet. He did 2?
I think he's only did the first 2.
Shit, you might as well get Adam Hughes at this point.
Right, I don't understand. He's a very cool artist, but like, why put him on?
Just do annuals. Annuals.
Just do one-shots.
Yeah.
Just do anthology stuff. Totally. There's no reason for that dude to be on monthly books.
We didn't hear Charlie's dislike or complaint about Marvel and DC.
I mean, it's kind of hard for me to praise or hate when I feel like I'm at least 3 to 6 months behind on the stuff that I have been reading, and my list of stuff to catch up on is still pretty crazy. I mean, I'll be the first one to say that, like, I found Bendis' Superman stuff okay. I kind of preferred it prior to him taking over, though. Like I don't find his stuff superior in any way, shape, or form to the books that were coming out prior to him taking over sort of the Superman title, which is kind of too bad because I'm much happier with like my Tomasi and Jurgens.
Yeah.
Hardcovers and stuff. Like, I'm not in a rush to buy any of like the Bendis stuff on that. But it's not that it was bad. It just, I preferred what was going on in the books prior to it. Like, it's really tough to follow up on a. It's very hard for any creator, regardless of how good the creator is, to follow up on what would be considered a very successful run of something. At least in the fans' eyes. Doesn't mean the sales were there or whatnot, but just in general. So I'm kind of indifferent on Bendis' DC work because of that. But I mean, for the most part, I kind of read the stuff I like and skip the stuff that doesn't interest me. I do not have any. Let's just put it this way: the second they announced the older Cable book, everything was right in my world again.
Brock did notice that neither you nor Bryce today were subscribed to the Kid Cable book. So
nope.
Oh, I have read the Kid Cable book on like the Marvel app, partly because it has sort of like a semi backup with the older Cable in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good. I still hate the Kid Cable with a passion.
Are you going to get the collection when it's finally put out?
No. I won't even touch an omnibus if they come out with a omnibus of like all the Kid Cable. I'll be like, that's one omnibus I'm skipping.
But what if it's with other Cable stuff?
Okay, if it comes out with like the, I want to say it was 3. No. There was like, so I bought all during the pandemic, I think part of it, I figured out all the cable issues and what trades and stuff they were in. And there were like 3 issues that don't exist in a collected form. If they put out like those 3 issues and all the Kid Cable stuff, I'd be like, fuck, I have to get it because I have the rest. But other than that, it would be hard pressed for them to get me to get that book.
That's fine.
Nice.
Let's see. So question from Brian. He says, "You guys have been keeping up with Superman and Lois now that it's back on. Such a great show." By the way, the quiz episode was great. That's another throwback to Kevin's quiz from a couple episodes ago.
Is there? Wow.
Now I know
I should have just read all the questions.
Yeah.
Now I know Toby has been very hyped for Superman and Lois the last couple episodes. I am a little behind. I need to catch up. I'm a few episodes back. When CW is in full swing, boy, is there a lot of these shows on. So I've been kind of like, watch the 4 episodes of Flash. Watch 4 episodes of Batwoman. No, now I have 7 episodes of Legends of Tomorrow to watch. Now I got 4 episodes of Superman and Lois that aired. So like, I'm kind of just doing these runs. So, I mean, I will be caught up with Superman and Lois by the finale, which is way like another like 4 episodes, I think, or something like that. I think there's like 4 more, something like that.
That's okay. Toby and I will be convinced every week that maybe that was the finale.
Yeah, every week Toby has been like, "It was the finale of Superman and Lois." I'm like, no, it's not.
The thing is
weird hiatuses, and
I don't blame him for his reaction. Like, I realize now, but that show has done a very good job of making the last few episodes feel epic enough to be the season ender or the season cliffhanger and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Finale happened a week ago, man. I keep telling you guys. You don't believe me. I tell you though, when you make it to that episode I'm talking about, and it just ends there, and you got to wait for a second season, you would totally believe me.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I believe it. Superman and Lois has been great though. Yeah, we will. I'll be all caught up by the finale for sure. I try to.
I'm waiting for your call for the 2 reveals.
Yeah, I haven't usually, like, if it was something that big, I feel like I would have heard about it or been spoiled by it or something. So
apparently, the internet is letting down Ryan.
Yeah.
Verum Libertas asks, hypothetically, Edgar Wright does a Superior Foes of Spider-Man movie. I know it would never happen, but how good would it be? Oh, that'd be amazing. Remember when Edgar Wright was going to do Ant-Man? I thought those movies turned out all right. Ant-Man was great. Ant-Man's great.
Ant-Man was great. Ant-Man and Wasp was really good.
I think I think maybe they had a little bit Edgar Wright, like kind of magic still in the sauce. So, yeah. Oh God, I'd kill for Edgar Wright to do anything in the MCU. That'd be super fun. I love his movies. I feel like he may want something a little bit more, not necessarily R-rated, but a little more freedom than I think most people are going to get doing a Marvel movie. So,
and I don't think what happened with Ant-Man after that, you come back and say, "I'd really like to work here."
Yeah.
That ship has probably sailed.
Yeah.
What if he did?
Well, I mean, he does say he's foes of Spider-Man, so maybe Sony gets him.
Oh,
you got to do whatever you want, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do Superior Foes.
I mean, hell, we're getting a Kraven movie, right? We can have a Beetle and Boomerang and who else is in Superior Foes? Shocker movie. Yeah, sure, why not? Like, sure.
Who else is in there?
That'd be great.
The guy that has the vehicle, right?
Spider Buggy.
No, the guy that like the one that has the superpowers, like the cars, he's always driving the hot rods and escape vehicles.
Oh yeah, I forget his name.
Is it Hot Rod?
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I got it over here. I can pull it out.
Craig Anderson asks.
The Craig Anderson?
Got a couple questions here. He says, I've worked my way through the first 2 Eternals series. Woof. That would be the Kirby. What would the
second one is the I think it's the early 80s. That's the one that I think Toby had read. Hold on.
Yeah, I actually ordered that fake epic collection of that one, so I'm gonna reread that one because that's the one I really actually dug.
Oh,
the first issue I think has a Walt Simonson cover with Icarus flying with like one fist.
Yeah.
Because
I want to say it's maybe 1984, 85, somewhere in there.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Is it the do they call it the Cosmic Origins? Oh no, that's something else. I know the trade you're talking about.
No, it's only one trade, I think.
Yeah, is it the Celestial Saga? Is that the?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's all the Thor stuff.
Yeah, that's from Thor. This is Sal Buscema art, and I can't remember who the writer was.
Oh yeah. The Dreaming Celestial Saga.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Now, if anybody just listened to me from the beginning, that's the one I was recommending out of the gate. So, although I haven't reread it since I was a kid, so maybe it's not a good recommendation, but it's definitely better than the OG stuff. I think.
So wait, what was Craig's question? Just oof?
Oh no! He says I'm a few issues into the game and run, which he's probably finished it by now. He says, which is better? Question mark?
No,
it's
not.
I read it
good.
once when it came out,
and it's not.
I have never read any. So there was a couple other Eternals story arcs, but those are like the only Eternals like series, right? There was like maybe a mini series in like the late 80s or something.
Yeah,
but those are the only like real Eternals books, other than like them randomly showing up and shit. Like, wasn't Gilgamesh like in the Avengers or some nonsense?
Probably.
Because I don't like Cersei was like they show up.
Gilgamesh
like,
was, and also the Druid or whatever he was called in England.
Yeah. So like my knowledge of the Eternals, even when I read that, was like pretty minimal. And
well, so for me, that Eternals was a backup, and basically I saw all the Eternal characters from the Avengers being in an Eternal story is really what was going on.
Yeah.
That Neil Gaiman run was not good.
Well, I read it and it just bounced right off of it. I don't remember anything about it. I maybe I'll reread it at some point, but I'm just like, I love Neil Gaiman. I just didn't get any enjoyment out of it. It just felt very like disconnected. So his question is, what's your best guess on how they introduce the Eternals after credit scene in Loki? And how will they be shoehorned into the movie universe story-wise? Again, best guess. I mean, I don't know. They're just going to be in Eternals. And
it's got to be that the whole idea is that they've been either off Earth and they're coming back after all this time. Although in the original, in the Kirby, it's the Celestials that are coming back, not the Eternals. Mm-hmm. So basically you need them to have been on Mount Olympus, quote unquote, or some equivalent to that. And something has brought them out of hiding is probably the wrong word, hibernation, right. They're like the Watchers, kind of. What's brought them back into action? You could tie that to Thanos. You could, although I don't know why they would come after he's already caused all his havoc, but whatever.
They're the old guard of the Marvel Universe. Pretty
much, yeah. So the question would be, why would the old guard now come out of hiding and never before?
Yeah.
But I got to disagree with Craig that for me, it's the Kirby run and then everything else scatters below that. And even the Kirby run is not great, but it's that crazy Jack 70s energy. The same with Machine Man, the same with Captain America and the Falcon, Devil Dinosaur.
Yep.
You either like that song or you don't like that song. I personally love it.
Yeah, Kirby's definitely in the DNA. Obviously in the Kirby run, but the DNA works better in some of the other stuff he's done. Like, I feel like you read that book, and if you're familiar with Kirby's work, you instantly want to read a different Kirby book.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say necessarily related, but in a similar fashion, I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey for I believe the first time on a high definition, large widescreen television. I am pretty confident the last time I saw that was like a 21-inch tube TV full screen was the last time I saw it, 2001. And another Kirby book, right? I guess he did that 2001 adaptation.
Oh yeah.
Although weirdly enough, like 2001 feels very un-Kirby like. It's very clean and I'm not just thinking of the monolith, but just in general, like it's very precise.
So the Treasury edition, that giant one, is his adaptation of the movie,
right?
And then the series is just okay, Jack, go do what you want, and he did. He went crazy.
Yeah. But I feel like in a similar manner, like they just kind of don't make movies like this anymore. Yeah. They just kind of don't make books like Eternals anymore, at least not Marvel and DC. So, whether it works for you or not, it's kind of beside the point, I think, of these books. It's just these guys are just doing the thing they want to do, and some people get stuff out of it. Because I have a friend, my buddy Seth, who's been on here once or twice in the past. He's a huge Eternals fan, and I'm kind of always like, huh? Really? I think he's just a big Kirby fan, but he really likes the Eternals, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. You're the one, I guess. So, another question from Craig. He says he finished reading Darkseid War, the Justice League event by Jeff Johns, and is that Jason Fabok that wrote all that?
Yeah.
He says, I started thinking about Jeff Johns. As his comic writing career ebbs due to his TV and movie work, writers out there can step into his shoes as the king of legacy and continuity. Are there any writers ready or even interested? Oh, what a good question. I think Joshua Williamson has a little bit of that. Yeah. He really does seem to love the history of these characters, and we'll see if Infinite Frontier kind of pans that out. It seems like it is.
Scott Snyder does too. I mean, he more takes
to a degree. I think he has a spin on this stuff.
Yeah,
but I think he respects the history in the past of this. But I think most
who can put Sergeant Rock in a metal thing and everyone's like, sure, cool, give it to me, right? Like,
I mean, guys like Kurt Busiek and Dan Slott definitely. They know their stuff, right? And Mark Waid, they absolutely know their legacy and continuity, and they do new stuff. And they kind of change stuff whenever they want. They're not. I don't think those guys are doing a decade defining book the way Johns has done work for DC. Not yet. I mean, I'd say Wade has in the past, but not currently. Kurt Busiek has in the past, but not currently.
Well, I feel, and I mean, this may be hard to articulate in some ways. I feel like Johns has always leaned into the history, like where a lot of these other people are absolute experts on the history. They've always kind of leaned towards that general rule of, okay, we can't infuse too much history into the comics DNA. Like they can do nods and whatnot. But I feel like Johns always leaned into some of the most complex stuff and wouldn't kind of ebb away from it. He would utilize that to enrich the story is kind of the best way I can put it.
Yeah, he's not afraid of changing stuff and making stuff new, but he's very aware of the past. I think Mark Waid does fit into that similar fashion. I just don't know that there's a lot of new people that have kind of publicly shown that real understanding and respect of the past and the history. I think Williamson's like one of the very few. Not to say that people don't like it.
Tom King does it. Tom King did a decent job with Batman and Catwoman and like kind of some of that history. It wasn't as upfront as John's, but I think it was there.
I think he think he knows it, but I don't really see it in his books. I think he
Mr.
really
Miracle,
does whatever
you don't
he
see
wants.
it?
No.
Like, Mr. Miracle has a ton of love for the old stuff in that.
Sure, but it's filtered through his own take on the story. Yeah, and then that's not a bad thing. That's amazing. It's great. It's all great stuff. But I don't. Someone like Tom King is doing the same sort of work that Jeff Johns does. It's just a different style. It's very standalone. It's not taking continuity into. It's not trying to like fix mistakes, but preserving the continuity.
Yeah.
It acknowledges. I think Tom King acknowledges generally like the best version of the thing, but he's not interested in fixing any continuity problems.
Yeah,
John.
Well, I guess the way I kind of look at it is, you don't necessarily have to have read Crisis on Infinite Earths to enjoy Infinite Crisis.
Yep.
But I think a lot of people read Infinite Crisis and wanted to read Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, it's a very different thing, but because of the way he takes some of this stuff from the past and builds on it, it also creates this groundswell, or at least I feel like it creates this groundswell of interest for some of these sort of collected editions and stuff that we've seen. And in some cases, I'm not sure we'd have a like 0 Hour omnibus today if it wasn't for John's leaning into some of that and like some of these other collections. Like a lot of that stuff was pretty well shoved to the side prior to him.
Oh yeah, and I kind of said in the past he sort of reminds me of like a little bit like a modern day Roy Thomas, who was just like crazy knowledgeable about the stuff and was willing to take oddball things and bring them in to the mainstream comic line and fix continuity and fix problems and had humongous casts and they're not exactly the same but similar, and I think their love of the lore and trying to find ways through like All-Star Squadron and Young All-Stars and everything to Infinity Inc. to sort of maneuver those characters into the take all these divergent thoughts and sort of put them into one like kind of cohesive storyline. Yeah, I just don't think there's a lot of people that do that, but I think someone always pops up. Final question there. We're going to get some spoilers. It's from Alex. He says, compare and contrast the aughts and the 2010s, 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2020, as far as the big two, Marvel and DC. High points, low points. And what about the comic community? How did the comic community differ in the 2000s to the 2010s? Boy, big question. I like it, though.
Well,
what year was the New 52? 2008?
2011.
2011.
Okay. So other than the Morrison Batman run, I have no memory of DC from, let's say, Green 2000 Lantern. To 2006.
John's Green Lantern.
There was the John's Green Lantern was maybe 05?
Yeah. So there is good stuff. There's really good stuff in there. You're just coming up to Dan Didio taking over. There's the lead into Identity Crisis, Infinite Crisis. 2000, like coming into 2000, DC was all about Wildstorm, and Marvel was all about Marvel Knights. Like the end of the 90s
and the
into
Ultimates.
2000. Huh?
And the Ultimates.
And Ultimates, right. And the 90s was Wildstorm and
Marvel Knights.
And Marvel Knights. And then once you hit 2000, Ultimates sort of really took over there. I think the 2011 to 2020, you have way more attempts from both Marvel and DC to the 2000s were the big events. The 2010s were the big like character reboots, character changes. Marvel Now, all new Marvel Now, DCU,
Marvel
Legacy, right? And I think it's just the changing of the times, right? The 2000s, the 2000 to 2010, you're coming off the Bad Girl stuff, the 90s stuff. You're getting, Warren Ellis and Mark Miller. are really blowing up. The rise of Image becomes what Image is in the 2000s. In the 90s, Image still was a lot of the weird, bad girl stuff and early Image stuff.
Like, oh, look at this cool series that we don't ever finish. Oh, look at this. You know, like it's a lot of like creators kind of trying to start something, but not starting anything really significant. I mean, you still had like Wildcats carrying through and Spawn and Dragon.
The Wildstorm stuff was very big at DC. I think Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimates at Marvel and Authority and Planetary at DC. I don't think you can. I mean, I think Authority just ruled the conversation at DC because that was the book.
So here's, I won't read this whole thing, but I just found this article with a timeline that breaks down. Here's just some from that era. So 2000, you have the JLA Earth 2 graphic novel, the Morrison Blakely, the Tower of Babel in JLA storyline. 2002 is Hush.
Yep.
2003 is the JLA Avengers and Superman Red Sun.
We are almost 20 years from JLA Avengers. Holy shit.
04 is War Games, Batman, Identity Crisis, and Green Lantern Rebirth.
And Identity Crisis is where everything changes, right? Identity Crisis, that's Didio's first big imprint at DC. And whether you love it or not, that's where the change is. So,
yeah, no comment. Okay, then 05 you have Infinite Crisis, All-Star Superman, and All-Star Batman and Robin. Oh, that good times.
Quite finished.
06 you have 52.
52 is really good.
Then the start of the Morrison Batman run. 07 is the Sinestro Corps War.
Yep.
And Countdown to Final Crisis.
You had to have been back at that point.
I was. No, I'm saying I just didn't remember pre John's Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And then anyway, I'll just end it here on 08 is the Batman RIP, Final Crisis, and Green Lantern Secret Origin.
Yep. It's big books. And I think Marvel through the first decade, it's all Bendis. It's all Bendis. It's all New Avengers. That New Avenger it is the
House of M.
It's the plummet of the X-Men, and it is the rise of the Avengers. That is the 2000s to me. Because once you get away from Morrison's X-Men run, it just never really hits the same way.
House of M hit during that time.
Yeah, but that's an Avengers thing. House of M is an Avengers book. That's not an X-Men book.
Yeah, but this is also when you can tell Marvel in general is trying to prop up properties. That's really when Marvel started caring about making their own movies.
Yeah.
And the fact that X-Men was not theirs made you started to see all the shift around. Like, you look at the character of Iron Man, and don't get me wrong, I liked Iron Man prior to the movies, but I feel like his status within comics started to radically change as soon as that first movie hit. And that started sort of this big rise of the Avengers in general.
They were focusing on the characters they owned, right?
Well, you didn't Marvel like Max really come out at that time? We had the Garth Ennis Punisher stuff.
Late 90s. Yep, late 90s, early 2000s. I think the online community really, you have forums, but the 2010s.
When did you get booted off Miller World's forums?
Well, the 2000s I think is forums, and the 2010s I think is Wikipedia's the wikis and social media, and I think that change is so dramatic in how fandom operates, for good and bad. The forums could be nightmare, but they were sort of self-contained to their little ecosystem.
Yeah.
Social media makes things very, very much more public. So,
I think it got louder, right? Yeah. All the bad stuff got louder over time, but also I think the community, which is what we don't see very often, is the community got bigger, but also more connected, right? Like creators were able to interact more so on a constant basis with fans than they were just going to cons or, being doing a signing at a shop, or like they now have this.
God, that totally did not even not need to cut you off there, but to 2000s, the rise of the convention, man, that completely changed the comic industry. Comic-Con go from Comic-Con 2000 to Comic-Con 2010. It's like a totally different thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and the speed with which it did it was so drastic, especially after Iron Man dropped.
Yeah.
Right. Like Iron Man kind of just
that whole
turbocharged.
Yeah.
Like it was going at a steady pace because of all the previous stuff and the movies and the TV shows and all that stuff. But Iron Man, I think, really kind of just, overpowered it and is sending it to where Comic-Con is now.
Yeah. Yeah. People have to remember there was no Marvel Hall H panel before like 2008 or 2009. Really, they didn't. There wasn't that many movies. There wasn't that this like.
I want to say
cohesive universe.
Iron Man 2 was the first.
The first one.
Big.
Yeah.
Because they showed Iron Man, the test footage at like not a small panel, but like a more traditional panel, correct?
I think so. That
test
was
footage
07, wasn't
of the Iron Man suit flying. That wasn't in like a big Hall H thing, was it?
I don't think so.
Do you remember this, Charlie or Toby? I figured you guys were there because that was Comic-Con.
I don't remember for sure. I just remember the Iron Man 2 like early footage that like exploded Hall H. That's the first time I remember
like a big Hall H.
Like I don't even know that I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to rack my brain if Hall H was really a thing beyond just a like the stuff I remember from early Comic Cons in Hall H would be like the evening with Kevin Smith and there wasn't big movie stuff in there throughout the day. It was always these big evening things that I recall.
Right.
Yeah, it was Favreau showed early clips in 2007.
And Iron Man. But is that in Hall H?
No, it was the segment of Paramount's 10 film presentation.
But that probably would have been Hall H. If it was Paramount, but it wasn't a Marvel Hall H panel with 1,000 people. Like, that's like a 2010s thing when the Marvel panels became
because the thing is
the convention thing.
Well, so here it was. Let's see. It was Thursday night. That's why he wasn't supposed to do anything until Saturday
or something.
But it was Thursday crowd that got kind of the let's just do it. Let's grow, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
So,
yeah. If you guys got any thoughts about the 10s to the,
I mean, it's
all this has done is depressed me as we start putting dates to these things in comics because I didn't need to know the years.
Well, here's a few again off that same thing I was reading in the DC. Here's just some highlights. Okay, so you mentioned Bendis already. You mentioned New X-Men. Okay, Immortal Iron Fist. That was Fraction and Brubaker, right?
2005,
right? David Aja. Yeah, amazing.
We mentioned the Ultimates. Okay, Astonishing X-Men, the Whedon.
Because I was well working at the shop at that point. What year was that? 04?
Astonishing?
04. Yeah, 4.
Yeah, so I was not owning. I didn't own the shop yet, but I was in sort of prep to start buying it, dude. Astonishing X-Men, no joke. That was a huge book. Whedon at that point was so popular.
I remember going into What's Hot at the time because I lived over near Santa Clara University. And it was one of the times where I wasn't in comic books at the time, but I walked into like What's Hot and I was like, well, let me grab a Wizard magazine. Because remember Wizard magazine? And I was like, I would normally just grab like an issue or something that looked interesting off the shelf. And Astonishing X-Men was out at the time. And I grabbed a copy because it had the Wolverine claws. And I thought that was a really cool cover. So yeah, it definitely like caught my attention at the time, even though I wasn't in comics so much.
So we also have Civil War.
That was, when was that? 05.
Then there's the Brubaker and Bendis Daredevils. Brubaker came after, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Lady Bullseye, right?
Yes.
So then there was
Bendis and Brubaker.
The Wade and Waringo Fantastic Four. Annihilation.
Oh, all the space stuff.
Yep.
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Planet Hulk.
Oh yeah.
Again, I think people cannot misinterpret the hype around Planet Hulk. That was a major event, and I loved it because they just dropped it in the middle of the book. Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't every numbered. It wasn't a massive event with crossovers and yada, yada, yada. That was just an arc in the book. It was just like Old Man Logan, right? Same thing. Huge event.
Well, see, I like those things where they're in the actual book themselves. Like, because it's like,
me too.
Like Batman Hush. It's just like,
yep.
Here, read Batman Hush. Doesn't matter that it's like issue 608 to 620. It's just read Hush. Like, that's all you need to do. Just read Planet Hulk. Right.
Yep.
And final two off the list, and they kind of are the similar type flavor. Young Avengers and Brian K. Vaughan doing Runaways.
Yeah.
All in that same
the aughts.
Around 06, like mid, a little after.
Yeah.
Wow. Charlie, do you feel old?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know, man. I was the one looking at this list going, oh my God, really?
No, see
I'm the first one to say whenever they solicit these amazing omnibuses, I hate when they're like 10th anniversary. I'm like, just put out the omnibus. Don't tell me any more than that.
Yeah.
Because, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Rebirth here for Green Lantern. A few more years.
Soon. Yeah. Yep. We really are at the point where I don't want to say my like that mid 2000s era is just like the height of my comic fandom. Really, everything was so, and I'm not like I don't love this stuff now. Everything is so many good books out now.
Yeah,
but Morrison on X-Men, Johns on Green Lantern, Infinite Crisis, like that little batch of stuff right there, 52, those few years, holy hell. All-Star Superman, man, is there a better batch of comics in the last 20 years? I don't know if there is. It's Brubaker on Cap, Bendis' Daredevil, like there's so many JLA Avengers. There's so many good books in that run. Just such an incredible time for all those guys.
Did you own the store then?
I bought it in 2006.
Right? Okay,
so that's right in that area. By 2004, it was like I was gonna start doing something. It was clear that I was in the process of trying to buy it, but it took a little while. Nico.
You also have to. You guys are also forgetting we had Fables, DMZ.
Yeah,
100 Bullets.
The kind of like the third generation Vertigo stuff.
Yeah, like that stuff started. Like, I mean, all of that stuff that came out of the '90s stuff was starting to kind of come out and just really grab people's attention. That wasn't. That wasn't the superhero stuff. And then what was it? American Vampire was kind of the stuff from the teens. Like that's, and we got like you got iZombie. Why Last Man was in the aughts. Right. Like there's a lot of good stuff from the aughts. Yeah. So
here, I'll make Charlie and everybody else feel old. Next year will be the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman.
It's coming.
So there you go, Toby. That's when you will get the resolicit of the omnibus that you've been looking for.
I want that black cover.
Which one? He didn't get it?
He wants the third omnibus?
Yes.
What is it? The stamp? Which one is that one?
He wants the one with the black cover with the fold out.
Is it the one with the flag?
Page?
No, it's just a black cover with the bloody symbol on it.
I got the one with the flag.
I don't know. I'll just be amused when they do a new printing for the anniversary with different issues in it again, because they can't. Because they can't seem to just keep it the same.
Well,
that's just my thing about the Death of Superman Omnibus, which has had 3 releases now, I want to say.
Yeah, I think
has never had the same issues in it twice.
Oh, guest star.
I felt old when the Netflix He-Man trailer came up and says 40 years later. And I was like, I don't think that's completely true, because I don't think that's been 40 years, but damn.
Well, before we move over to our
Loki.
I want to hear Toby talk about Invincible for a little bit, but then we'll talk Loki for a minute. I do have to promote something. We are having our first signing at the shop in quite some time. It's going to be outdoors. At their request, I actually said I really didn't care. I think it'd be fine inside, but we are having a local writer and customer at the store, Luigi Barillo. However, his co-writing partner on the book coming out is none other than Jim Kruger, who's a writer you may know from Justice and Earth X. He's done a handful of books for Marvel and DC through the years. Charlie's a very big fan.
Didn't he do a book that was sponsored us for a bit? What was that called? Oh, what was that book called? No,
I don't think so. No Ghosts in Hiroshima is the name of the book. This is an independent book from Scout Comics, and Scout's a big indie book, right? A big indie company right now. Scout's been doing a lot of big books. A very cool company. And Luigi approached me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this comic." I'm like, "Oh, that's super cool." He goes, "Yeah, I'm co-writing it with Jim Kruger." I'm like, "What? Like how'd that happen?" He's like, "I want to do a signing at the shop." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." So Saturday, July 10th from 4 to 6 p.m., we're going to have both of them doing a signing. Again, it's outdoor, masks, it should be fine though. I'm not too worried about it. I think we'll have plenty of, we've got a big tent and everything like that. So our sale tent and everything. As of right now, the plan is we'll have copies available online, signed copies available online after the event as well. No additional charge, just if you want to grab a copy. I actually had talked with DC to try to get copies because there's a Justice is available in hardcover right now. But I'm having a little trouble figuring out if we're going to be able to get them by the event. I'd love to be able to offer some signed copies for people to pick up on our website. But hopefully by next week I'll have official word on that either way. But either way, yeah, Saturday, July 10th, 4 to 6 p.m., Jim Kruger and Luigi Barillo's No Ghosts in Hiroshima are doing a signing, 4 to 6 p.m. So that should be cool. I haven't done a signing for a while, especially COVID. So that said, Toby, I want you to talk about Invincible for a little bit. You were a little you were into spoilers here for everyone up to this point. So, and then we'll do a little bit of a low-key talk and wrap it up. But just a couple minutes, Toby, because I know you finally are on Invincible. You had a hard time starting it,
yeah,
but you finally made some progress. Yeah,
yeah. Now kind of into it actually. It's like what I watch every night now.
I told you it's good.
Yeah, no, I mean, now that I got over all the fake stuff, I'm in.
Toby was like, spoil the whole episode for me. I want to know what happens. I don't why do I care about these fake superheroes?
Well, I wanted to judge if it was worth my time. Because up to that point, I was like, these are stand-ins for all these other heroes that I know. Like, why would Superman kill the Justice League? And without context, I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure if I want to invest my time in this. So I don't care about spoilers if I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to invest my time in it or not. So, yeah. That was my thing. Well, here's the funny thing, right? Everybody was talking about the end of the first episode. Somehow, I never got spoiled. And I always thought it was that stupid meme I see everywhere on the internet where he's holding his two fingers up against Invincible. And there's a bunch of memes about it on the internet. So I always thought that was what was coming. But that wasn't it. It's just like the Omni-Man, spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, killing the Justice League. And, up to that point, I mean, the reason why I think I had a hard time with the pilot or the first episode was, these are not the real characters. They're like fake versions of other stuff, which, I think I explained to Ryan that it didn't bother me so much in Wanted because it was more like a different perspective, but this was pretty much Spider-Man, Superman, and then a bunch of like fake JLA, fake this, fake versions of like, and I don't want to say fake, but stand-in versions for other characters that we all know, But then when the end finally hit, which again I knew it was a big ending coming because everybody and their moms were talking about it. It's not what I never got spoiled, so I never knew that was coming. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. A little left field, but the way he acts around his kid and his wife is just kind of weird that, he would do that. I mean, yeah, sure, I'm on episode 4 now where he kind of is breaking every now and then. It's still a little odd, but I like the kid story. I like Invincible story, so I'm following it for that now. And the robot having
Mark
a side
Grayson?
story. Yeah, who is part Spider-Man, part Nightwing, part everything else I like. That's why he's a fake version of everything I like. So why? It's kind of like if I could read the real stuff, why this? But no, I've started to like it. I know it has a big following. I know it has a big fan base, and I know the Invincible readers are big fans, and they love the book. So I apologize if you guys are all mad at me now.
No, talk about a book actually driving sales, or a show driving sales, though. Like a lot of people have been reading Invincible now because of the show. It's crazy.
No, but yeah, that's usually what happens, right? When there's one book for people to watch, right, or one book for people to read.
Boys did that a little bit too.
Oh, a lot, a ton. Yeah, we sold a ton of Boys. Yeah, I think with Invincible, the people I've talked to that picked it up have said, yeah, I don't want to wait for season 2. I want to keep reading right now and see where the story goes, because they do a good job of having lots of little kind of one episode plots and then sort of the bigger narrative of where do we go after this. So, yeah, I thought like you would have loved Invincible, so I was a little confused when you were like, yeah, I can't really get into the first episode. I'm like, it feels like it's so up your alley. So I'm happy you're getting into it though.
Well, I'm watching it, so we'll see. I mean, like I said, now that I've kind of like, I think a lot of the stand-in stuff was kind of set up, right? It's a world where Superman has already killed the Justice League, and I'm like, okay, now we have a starting point, right? Because I would have really disliked it if the fake Justice League was just part of the story. Then I really couldn't have, like, I probably would have stopped watching at that point. But now that it's been set up, like this is what happened, this is the world that we're in, I'm like, okay, now I'm good. Like now that I passed that point, I'm like, okay, I'm good with this world now because it's different, and so I'm good to go. But when they were having all the stand-ins, I'm like, why bother with this? Like, couldn't Kirkland just gone to DC, go, let me write the story and we could do it for real? But now I guess I'm kind of in now. Like it's one of the things I watch before going to bed, and I'm curious to where it goes. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of like more invested and far more invested than Loki to watch the next episode. So I'm in for now. But like I said, it took me forever to get the first episode going. Like I think I tried like 4 times to finish that one.
With Loki?
No.
Invincible. Yeah.
Yeah, Loki also, but right now we're talking about Invincible. Yeah. So, no, I mean, yeah. I'm starting to see what the appeal is, but that's. I mean, I'm only on episode 4, so yeah. But I like the fake Teen Titans, and I thought they were far more interesting than the fake Justice League. So now I find it a lot more interesting.
What's Rexplode? Do you like or hate Rexplode?
Is the worst. Worst.
I assume you hate him, Toby. You know who Rexplode
Yes.
is? Do you like Rexplode? I feel like he's just annoying enough that you would like him.
Who the fuck is Rexplode? Is he a dinosaur?
He's the super annoying Teen Titan kid. He's what's her name? His girlfriend or boyfriend?
Ava.
I mean. Yeah.
Adam Eve.
Oh, in Invincible?
Yeah.
That red guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I can't stand him. Like, I wish he would die. Like, he's so annoying. Like, whenever he comes up, I feel like it's a waste of my bloody time.
You're supposed to hate Rexplode. That's the whole point.
Well, yeah, but he is so bad. I really don't like him. Like, yeah, it's really bad. Like I half think that there's going to be a story where he gets, to turn him around. But I'm like, for now, I really, really dislike him, and it's I can't stand him.
You'll be very happy watching the rest of the show if you do not like him. So,
all right, cool. I'm guessing he's going to get cut in a few pieces and ass raped by the blue guys.
Yeah. First season was really good. I really liked Invincible. But let's move over to Loki. And I don't know that I have anything to say. It was fine. It was a fine episode. Nothing really happened. I don't
exactly.
Yeah. Point. It's just a very middle episode of like, I guess we're just having character talking moments now, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm just flashing back to last week where you're just like, just give me Tom Hiddleston sitting around talking.
Yeah, and that's all it was.
So they
it was
just
great,
went,
but
I know exactly what we need to give Ryan this week.
Yeah. There's just not there was no real for a 6-episode show. You kind of figure there'd be like 6, 8, however, is it 6?
It's 6.
Yeah, like this is kind of a weird character building filler episode, and I figured they'd
at this point you feel like they should go, well, I think Falcon Winter Soldier should have been the 6th episode, and this one should have been the Falcon Winter Soldier length.
I don't know. It's just I kind of feel like the MCU shows a little bit miss that last that big last moment in the episode. Did anything?
Well, so this week's episode, I think for me, I didn't mind the character development. I didn't mind the character interaction with
of course.
Sylvie, right? Sylvie and Loki. I didn't mind any of that. What bothered me was kind of like they're walking everywhere, and I'm like, I get it, but there's got to be something it just felt like, okay, they're walking, and then the end of the episode, because we're spoiler area now. At the end of the episode, when they're running through and fighting, and all the explosions are going on, and all this stuff is happening, and then they're trying to get to that ship, and they're like almost there, and Loki catches that building and throws it back, and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And then the ship blows up, and you get like, oh, that sucks. And then when you see the shot of everybody kind of that's at the end of that scene, it felt like somebody yelled, cut, roll back, we have to do it again. And Sylvie stormed off, pissed off, right? Like, it didn't feel like it fit in what was going on, because there was so much going on that I'm like, everything that was happening stopped. Like, the planet stopped, stuff stopped falling, all this stuff. It just felt like they reset the whole thing. And I'm like, this feels weird. It didn't, I didn't like how it ended. It just felt like somebody yelled cut to me. It didn't feel like it was the end of the...
I feel like I'm not remembering how it ended, because the whole planet's falling apart, right?
The whole planet's falling apart, right? This huge scene, they're running through, they're fighting those guys, right? The camera's going all over the place, the building starts falling, Loki's going to catch it, right? And then they pan up and you see they're almost at the ship, right? Because they're at that gate thing or whatever. You're like, they just made it. And then you see it get hit by a meteor or destroyed or whatever. And then the camera turns back to everybody on the ground, and it looks at Loki and Sylvie, and they look up, and everybody looks up seeing the explosion. And then Sylvie just kind of turns around and storms off while Loki's still staring, and everybody else is kind of just standing there. And I'm like, but wasn't this whole scene a bunch of chaos and people running around and stuff blowing up and all of this stuff? And then it literally felt like somebody yelled, cut, we have to re-roll, and she walked off.
I mean, the whole thing is they're like, well, we're all dead, right?
Well, but it's it held on for too long. It was it
okay.
was
I get it. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I was like, did they accidentally cut in the wrong like?
I have to go back and rewatch it. I didn't really take it like that, but I see what you mean. Yeah,
I want to know what happens because it's definitely something like, well, how the F do they get out of this, right? Like,
yeah, I find the characters are going to die is kind of a lazy, end credit, ending sequence because they're not going to. So
yeah, it feels like this is the cut in the cartoon where oh my god, that they're going to die, right? And then it's like commercials. Yeah, and then you come back from commercials, and then it's like, then they finish it. And here it's like the ending of the episode, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine with character building, and just I'm a little surprised the episode is kind of lacking in like plot. The plot going forward.
It was. Like I enjoyed the character development. Like the interaction between Loki and Sylvie was great, except you had these scenes where again they're just there was really no reason for them to get jettisoned from the train and then walk. There was no reason like it like to me it just felt like okay.
I'm assuming Charlie had a similar reaction to me. It feels very Doctor Who like. And that's not a complaint. It's great. Doctor Who is this bigger story and lots of one-offs and goes on forever. This is theoretically 6 episodes and never anything else. So I'm a little like, I'm surprised they went with kind of just such an episode start to finish that was talking in character and no real plot. Plot moving forward at all. But that's fine. So we'll see where it goes. It's only a couple
I guess at the end of the day, I'm just surprised they, as you said, nobody believes that they're actually going to die on that planet. So ending with the ship exploding wasn't really a good place to end the episode. So I'm a little surprised they didn't end you on something to try and get people more excited for the next episode. But I can also understand why they wanted to slow down a little bit and really try and highlight the difference that this isn't just a female Loki. This is a different character in a way. So I can understand why they wanted to give these 2 different versions of Loki a chance to kind of differentiate each other very well. But I'm surprised that the ship didn't explode and then the time agent showed up or just something like that. Like, it was a little random.
Yeah, that's what caught me so off guard at the end. That's why it stuck with me all week. Was like, this really just feels like somebody yelled cut. We need to re-roll, and it was like, and everyone was just not disappointed in the ship blowing up. They were disappointed that, oh man, we didn't get that take. Right, like
I don't know. I didn't take it that way at all. It was a very meh ending of the episode.
No.
Yeah, I kind of almost think that it would have made more sense. Like the ship blows up, and then you see him and her and a new character and someone else there, and they're like, they think you're dead. Now we can tell you the truth about the TVA. Dun, dun, dun. And that's how it ends. Yeah, it feels like it was missing that like stinger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a kind of a odd ending. But yeah, again, just Tom Hiddleston talking and doing his own thing for an hour. I'm never going to complain. Yeah, it was such a short show. I'm always a little bit surprised when they sacrifice plot moving for extended character development and action sequences. So.
But I liked their character interactions. Like, it was done very well, and it was hilarious when you get to that they have the 2 different approaches to getting help from that lady or that homestead, right, at first, because you don't know who's behind the door at first, and then like both of them get knocked on their asses. because they're both just, instead of just asking nicely and being polite, they have to do it their own kind of, mischievous way, and both of them just get knocked on their ass.
Yep. Oh, it was good stuff. Good stuff. And we'll see where we go. A couple episodes left, then we got 2 weeks, so 2 episodes, and then so next episode should be normal, but our episode on the 13th should be I don't know if it'll be the whole episode, but at least a most of the episode. It'll be a Black Widow episode. So good reviews so far. I know some of the reviews have been good.
Black Widow's out on the 19th, isn't it?
It's the 9th?
Is it the 9th?
It's the 9th. The 19th is a Monday. It's the 9th.
It's the 9th? Okay.
Yeah. Pretty sure it's the 9th.
I'll double check.
Yeah. There's only 3 left of Loki, so.
You are right. It's July 9th, so we have.
Yeah. We are getting close to the end.
Yeah.
All right. That is it. We're going to wrap up. Thank you for all your questions. Patreon.com/comicconspiracy. You can throw some questions over there. Head over to comicconspiracypodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify for all our previous episodes. I'm actually going to do a little change up on the podcast site because I haven't posted the actual individual links the last few weeks. I'm just going to have a kind of like the Geek Box does, just a most recent episode stream on there, and I think it lets you access older episodes from the same playlist. So you can always find them on there as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Head over to comicsconspiracy.biz where you can pick up some comics from us from mail order or pick up at the shop. All sorts of good books come in. It has been so busy.
What? Busy?
Yeah. End of the month shipping too. So Brock does all the shipping in the next day or two. So if you get a big order and you want to throw it on his
I will
big,
kill Higgins at this point.
You can head over to Comics Conspiracy, order some books. Head over to conspiratorbrock.com for Brock's blog, pull list, unboxing videos, and other stuff. Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast. That's Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. You can find all sorts of stuff out there about the good doctor. And don't forget to listen to the weekly interview series called Between the Panels. Or sorry, did I say listen to? I meant read. Read the weekly interview series called Between the Panels at fanbasepress.com. That's from Kevin Sharp. He interviews some great comic creators over there. And if you're interested in some artwork, you can pick up some stuff by my wife, Leanne. That is leannehill.com and etsy.com/shop/leannehillart. Please check out all of us on Twitter. Follow us, Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock is Brock Sager. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity in Chaos. The store is Kevin is that Kevin Sharp. And the store is Comicscon Store. And as always, check out Geekbox. Talked about Mario Golf this week. Mario Golf. And don't forget to also check out our friends over at Manga Machinations to talk about manga and anime. Thank you guys very much for listening to yet another episode of the Comic Conspiracy Podcast. We'll catch you next time.